And verse 11, the Spirit is convincing the world concerning judgment, because the ruler of this world is judged. Satan has been judged. Now, this third one is perhaps more meaningful in cultures where there's a greater awareness of the spirit world, where you will find people that perhaps will be convinced, yes, I'm a sinner, will be convinced, yes, Christ can give me his righteousness, but what blocks them from becoming Christians is fear of perhaps demonic powers or spirits that have been keeping them captive, or fear of the village witch doctor or shaman or stuff like that. These are real issues in some parts of the world. And so part of the gospel, when you're preaching in those contexts, includes these dark powers have been defeated by Jesus Christ. Now, I personally believe that this is going to become more and more of an issue in North America, where you have an increasing interest and increased dabbling in occultic-like practices. And I think that Christians and the church need to become more aware of how to deal with individuals who are in fact held in bondage by demonic forces whose power needs to be broken. So the Holy Spirit is at work in the world. The Holy Spirit is convincing unbelievers. Now, I don't know how this happens, but we are invited to pray for unbelievers. And in some way that I don't understand how it works, but in some way, our prayers make what the Spirit is doing more effectual. And so we can pray for people that we care about, unbelievers. Holy Spirit, would you convince them? And we might be aware of specific issues in their thinking, in their lives, that is preventing them. Perhaps particular intellectual objections that they have, or particular habits of life that they don't want to change, or whatever it might be. So we can pray about some of those things very specifically. Lord, would you remove that obstacle? Would you convince them that this is harming them? Would you show them that this is sin? Would you show them that they are offending you and that they need to throw themselves on your mercy? And there is something about praying that we are working together. God has chosen not to do this independently, but God has chosen to work with his people and through his people. It is the Holy Spirit who regenerates, but the Holy Spirit uses prayer, the Holy Spirit uses preaching, the Holy Spirit uses witnessing, the Holy Spirit uses people sharing their testimony. Holy Spirit uses these things. So the Spirit is at work in unbelievers, first of all, convicting them, convincing them about Christ and about their need. And secondly, the Holy Spirit is at work in unbelievers, opening up their hearts. Acts 16:14, one who heard us, so talking about preaching, one who heard us was a woman named Lydia from the city of Thyatira, a seller of purple goods, who was a worshiper of God. The Lord opened her heart to pay attention to what was said by Paul. So the Holy Spirit is convincing. That sounds like more of an intellectual thing, kind of a mind thing. So the Holy Spirit is working on people's minds, but he's also working on people's hearts, opening up hearts, softening people's hearts towards Christians, softening people's hearts towards the church, perhaps, softening people's hearts towards the gospel. And then finally, the Holy Spirit regenerates. Regeneration is a work of the Holy Spirit in unbelievers, making us into believers, into Christians. So this is what we need to be praying for the people that we love, people that we care for. Somebody once called this frangelism, F-R-A-N, friends, relatives, associates, and neighbors. These are the people in our lives. Who in our lives? Let's make a list. Friends, relatives, associates, neighbors. These are the people that we need to be praying for and saying, Lord, help me to be a witness of the gospel.